Hi, I'm Jack, and this is the ninth and final video in this series about my A-Level Computer Science NEA. I scored 70 out of 70 for my project, and hopefully I can help you get a high score too. For my NEA, I built a computer game with some basic AI based on an old abstract strategy board game. In this video, we'll be looking at the evaluation section and the bibliography. Okay, so the evaluation section of your NEA should be a critical assessment of your solution, comparing its functionality now against the original objectives that you set out way back in the analysis section. Should include evidence-based analysis from the test results and your stakeholder feedback, looking at limitations and suggesting realistic future improvements. So at the beginning of this section, you can go right back to your success criteria from the analysis section and decide whether you met, partially met, or entirely failed to meet each of the criteria. I laid this out in a table with the success criteria in the first column, then whether it passed or failed in the second column, and highlighted that column green, orange or red for pass, partial pass, and fail. Third column is the evidence to support the outcome you gave, and you should have a how to evidence section back in your original success criteria table, so just follow what you wrote there. In most cases, for me, the evidence was just a screenshot of the game. In other cases, it was a case of listing out all possibilities and showing that I checked each one and that those which should occur occurred and those that shouldn't didn't. I also used a screenshot of part of the coding in one case, a photo of the game being used for port forwarding, and I took some timings at one point to show how long the AI took to make a move. Now the fourth box in the table is for the evaluation. Now make sure you're not just describing the criteria again, but actually evaluating it. You can include stakeholder feedback to support this and discuss any challenges you faced and how successfully you overcame them. I then moved on to evaluating the usability features in a similar way. Now this is in a similar table, doing pretty much the same thing with the feature in the first column, evidence in the second column, and an evaluation of how it went in the third. After this, we've got the evaluation of the project as a whole, which allowed me to go over any successes the project had and challenges I faced in a much more cohesive way than the boxes in the tables. It also meant I could put in my personal opinion about parts of the project and look at what I would do differently if I were to do the project again. Now, the final part of this section looks at maintenance and development. This section should demonstrate that your software is not just a one-time project, but something that's robust and maintainable and something that can be improved in the future. So looking at maintenance, I began by talking about comments, of course, as that can really help either someone else or your future self remember how certain things work and why. I used comments to explain the purpose of each class and function so I could easily find any part of the code if I wanted to change something at a later date. I also used descriptive variable and function names to make it clear what they're referring to, indents, and new lines between functions and classes to improve readability. Finally, I also talked about separating my program into 4 different files and different classes and functions to make the code more modular, easier to alter, and easier to read. We now move on to development. Now, this section is to show that you understand that your software is never truly complete and it's always be improved if you had more time, more stakeholder feedback, or more technology available to you. So the first thing I would do is look back at your success criteria. Could you improve anything that didn't pass if you had more time? Also look at your stakeholder comments. Is there anything that you didn't have time or didn't want to do there, but that could theoretically be done? You could also just come up with features yourself that you think could enhance your solution, or look at work other people have done on other solutions for inspiration. Finally, we're looking at the bibliography. Hopefully you've kept a list of any sources you've used, as that makes things about 1,000,000 times easier. Now, in case you're wondering what the difference between a reference list and a bibliography is, a reference list only includes sources that have been directly quoted in your work, whereas a bibliography lists all sources you've interacted with in any way, including background reading. I went for a more general bibliography. So then you're going to need a referencing system. I would recommend probably using either Harvard, which is a general standard, or the IEEE, which is more common for use in computer science and engineering. The exam board won't really mind what you use for this though, just so long as you're consistent with it throughout. I ended up using the Harvard system, but unfortunately the only version of my NEA I've been able to locate is one version before the final one and doesn't include correct references or a contents page. So I'll quickly run through Harvard referencing here. So references should always be listed in alphabetical order by author's surname. So in the Harvard system, to reference a book, you start with the name or names, surname first, comma, initial, full stop. Then you have the date inside brackets, the title in italics, the city of publication, a colon, and then the publisher. For web pages, you start with the author's surname or companies because they can publish websites too. Same as above with the surname, comma, initial, full stop. Then year in brackets, title of web page in italics, full stop, then available at, colon, the URL of the web page can be found at, and the date you accessed it. Now, don't worry if you can't remember the exact date you accessed it. You can generally make this up so long as you get it in the right region and the website doesn't change very often. Now, if you don't know either the author and the or the organization, you should prioritize the title and put it before the date. If you don't have a date at all, then just write no date in the brackets. For in-text citations, which is to say when you're referencing that text at the end of a quote, that source at the end of a quote, you need to put in brackets the author's surname, comma, the publication date, and if it's a book, a lowercase p for page and the page number. I'll link some websites on how to use the Harvard and IEEE systems below. Then after this, I just put the full code for my solution at the end of my project. You could put this under appendices, for example. So that's the end of the final video of the series. There's a link to my NEA in full below if you want to check it out. And I'll be back again hopefully at some point looking at how to get a degree apprenticeship. Thanks for everything. Bye.